Christmas. So I'll say a few things. The first is, well, I'll play off of the themes that you raised, right? Greek tragedy and the evolution of democracy.
Oh, yeah. The Greek
Oh, sorry.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Greek tragedy
Greek tragedy.
and the evolution of democracy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is one way to, I think, take off. It's funny that it happened on Christmas, that the New York Times article was released on Christmas, because historically, if you look at the archaeological record, the scapegoat ritual, the actual scapegoat ritual, like the Hebraic, kind of Mesopotamian scapegoating ritual. Okay, so I really need to get into there was an actual scapegoating ritual where they would literally get two goats and they'd kill one and they'd burden the other one with rocks and stones and send it away. And this was done in ancient times, and it's thought by some archaeologists that it was done as a replacement for actual human sacrifice in some of these societies. So you're looking at a kind of anthropologically deep-seated way of creating community through ritualized sacrifice. And it was always done on the New Year, right? And here we have a scapegoating ritual in postmodern garb. And so this is the first thing. The Greek tragedy was the scapegoat who unifies the community is guilty. This is the Greek tragedy, Oedipus, right? There's darkness in the times. The crops are failing. There's a plague, right? Why the hell is this happening? Well, it's this stranger who rolled out of town, right? Somebody with no legacy family, somebody who's vulnerable, who happened to rise to power. He did it. He's the reason there's a way of thinking about how society is created. The way we create society now is by giving the benefit of the doubt to the victim, to the scapegoat, right? And this was the biblical, and of course Christ is the ultimate scapegoat, right? The message of Christ is that the scapegoat is innocent, right? And so I think that's interesting to think about the way we've progressed, right? Back from our monotheistic achievements. And in fact, we were talking about Heidegger earlier today. Heidegger's answer to our modern malaise was a kind of paganism. He said, only a God can save us now. He didn't say only God, he said only a God. And this is extremely significant, right? Because what we're seeing here is a stepping backwards from some of the most basic moral principles that have guided Western civilization for a very long time, in this case to the evolution of democracy. It's really interesting to me to look at the history of educational technology, and I've done this extensively. My next book's going to be about educational technology. And if you look at the early rhetoric surrounding the creation of the television, it was going to be the vessel of democracy. The television was going to be a thing that got to every man, that allowed for this freedom of true democracy. Of course, what happened was not that. Right? Marc described it. At first, there were just 3 frickin' stations, and only one of them was nonprofit. The whole thing got commercialized, commodified, etc. Similarly, there's rhetoric still about the internet. People haven't woken up to the fact that for the most part, the same thing has happened to the internet. Right? And that the various tools we think are enabling democracy and justice are often being used for exactly the opposite purpose. And we have to ask, why is this? What's built into these tools? So I have friends in the tech world who are building very different tools. So there's a concrete utopian story that we could tell about the liberating possibilities of the internet, right? But we're just telling a kind of critical diagnostic story now. And the story for many of these things like Google and Facebook is one of co-optation. I hate to say it, but it's just true. Epistemological co-optation by Google, right? Which is to say that Google's search algorithm does more to affect what we think is true than almost anything else, at least for those of us who have access to computers. And if you look at the research we've done with adolescents and you ask them what's the truest thing you find on the internet, it's the thing that comes up first on Google, right? Now that's just categorically false. But this is the common sense way that our epistemologies are being shaped by Google. So that's one. You have to think, what drives the Google search algorithm? What drives Google? Advertising. of course, utopian, like, there are good things about Google, right? So don't, it's a sacred cow in progressive liberal circles. And similarly with Facebook.
It's still really.
It's still too soft.
Hold
Wow,
it,
there's something
hold
about
it lower
that.
down, just
Yeah.
hold.
Hold it like this. Is this
Put
allowed?
the-
Yeah, like this.
Oh, yeah.
I usually don't use a microphone. Yes, so where was I? Google.
Sacred cow.
Yeah. Sacred cow. And similarly with Facebook. So again, this is under this banner of the evolution of democracy. And the idea that we now have these liberating structures, right? But are they only apparently liberating? Or are we only using them in certain ways? Right? I mean, Facebook has been predominantly following Google in driving advertisement-based revenues. Right? So think about this. The Super Bowl. I love the Super Bowl. I'm a Patriots fan, so I get to watch a lot of Super Bowls. And there's a way in which the Super Bowl is just a spectacle. Right? Nothing's actually produced by the Super Bowl. There's a lot of neo-Marxist analysis of the economy of the spectacle. Right? What do you create when you can only make so many hamburgers and actual physical things? You create spectacle. You sell admission to the spectacle. Super Bowl is an incredible spectacle, so there's a lot of commercials, right? Here's what's interesting. Tom Brady needs to create the Super Bowl. Really high-level talent needs to create the Super Bowl, right? Now, Facebook is a spectacle where you create the spectacle, and the advertisements are sold off of your back, right? So for every hour you put into Facebook, you're generating views, which allows them to sell advertisements and actually customize the advertisements depending on what you've written, right? So this is remarkable. Like from a kind of heterodox economic standpoint, it's an unprecedented situation where we are both the consumer and the producer of the same product, right? And we're kind of creating the very spectacle that we consume, and we're willingly participating in the ability of people to surveil us. So that's the other factor with Facebook. You know, look at who sits on the board. A lot of people from the Department of Defense. So the point here is that the very tools that should be entirely transparent, that are actually mediating our communication about the most significant things in our lives, our babies, right? Our relationships, right? Accusations of criminal, you know? These very things are being pushed through a medium that's anything but neutral, right? That's anything from just as transparent as the air is that I'm speaking to you, right? And this was, of course, Marshall McLuhan's lesson in the 60s. The medium is the message. And you wonder why so many Facebook posts become so contentious, like, at least the ones that I see. Like, there's the happy everyone saying, yes, this is great, but if it ever gets into a disagreement, it's structured actually such a way to perpetuate the continuation of it. There are ways you can build, and I have friends who work on more sophisticated ways of structuring online discussion, where you can have epistemological tags and reminders to check your perspective, and all these things built in algorithmically through the artificial intelligence of the chat room structure. Now, Facebook could do that if they wanted to. They could say, hey, you're kind of making an assumption here, right? They choose not to do that. Instead, they choose to read it and say, you'd probably like to buy this, right?
You probably what?
You would probably like to buy this,
Oh, you.
right? They customize what they give you. So this is interesting, right? And this is where we are finding truth and saving the world, you know, and organizing community. And sometimes it's happening, but sometimes it's not, right? And so I think we're at a period now where the technology is starting to saturate so deeply, especially to younger generations, where we need to have really fundamental questions about the level of discourse in public culture and be honest about the fact that it is going down, and it's going down very quickly. And so as an educator, I can't help but see this as a result of a failed educational system. And so this is the deeper point, and gets a little bit to my point about the regression back from our most fundamental civilizational values, you know, in the Western canon, right? We're in a kind of dark period, let's be honest. I mean, the American public educational system was decimated. And so when you're looking at people who were in their 20s and 30s, they had a very different experience in school. And while many baby boomers I've met were actually taught to think in class, it's happening less and less. So, and this is, I'm not going to get into this, and tomorrow we'll talk about the politics and the reason we need to change a lot of basic structures not just schooling, but economics and other things. So in any case, so this is kind of what arises for me in this, is a broader fear of a devolution of culture. And so we talk so much about the evolution of culture, and that's necessary, and evolution happens, but devolution is also a biological phenomenon, and often accompanies adjacent evolutionary advance, right? So we're at a time of tremendous, I think, change, and we're seeing everything. And I'll just end on this point, right? Again, this is Rene Girard's point about what the biblical tradition brought, as opposed to Greek myth and kind of neo-paganism. But it was a sense of, well, if we now know that all the scapegoats are innocent, and if we now can no longer create community through the exiling of the scapegoat, right? Then it's the end of days. That's what Christ said. Christ said, I bring the apocalypse, right? But apocalypse means an uncovering, right? It means that everything is revealed, right? You cannot no longer hide behind this scapegoating bullshit. You just can't, because we can call this for what it is, right? And this is one of the things that we're saying, is that it's all revealed, and that's what it means. So there's and this is the progressive revelation again of the biblical tradition, is this consistent self-criticism. You're always most critical of what I've said, me, you know. You're always speaking to a higher, and not referencing tradition and myth, and that there's always the historical next, which is critical of the past, right? And so there's just this endless opening, and that's what we're stepping into. That's why it's so damn painful. So I'll stop there. I kind of went meta just because I've heard this story so many goddamn times. And tomorrow we'll deepen some of these political themes, I think.
I just want to